Tycoon left his pregnant wife. For years later, he finds her with quadruplets. Mr. Chun, his assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. Your wife is on line 1. She's called 3 times today. Marcus glanced at his Patek Philippe watch, 11:45 p.m. He had missed dinner. Again. With a heavy sigh, he picked up the phone. Sophia, I'm in the middle of something important, he said, his voice carrying the weight of countless similar conversations. Important? More important than your pregnant wife. Sophia's voice trembled slightly. You promised we'd discuss the nursery colors tonight. Marcus stood up, walking to the window. Below, the city pulsed with endless possibility. We can talk about it tomorrow. The Singapore deal, there's always a deal, Marcus. Always another meeting, another contract, another reason to not be home. The silence between them stretched like a chasm. In the reflection of the window, Marcus saw himself, impeccable suit, perfectly styled hair, the embodiment of success. But something else caught his eye. A small photo frame on his desk, face down. It was their wedding photo, the one Sophia had insisted he keep in his office. I'm building this for us, he said finally, his voice softer. For our future. For our child. No, Sophia replied, her voice barely a whisper. You're building it for yourself. And you're losing us in the process. The line went dead, leaving Marcus alone with his empire of glass and steel. He picked up the fallen photo frame, studying the smiling faces captured in that moment of pure joy. 2 years ago, they had been so different. He had been different. His phone buzzed, another email, another opportunity, another chance to expand his reach. Marcus hesitated for a moment, his thumb hovering over the screen. Then, with practiced precision, he straightened his tie, set the photo face down again, and opened the email. After all, empires weren't built on sentiment. They were built on sacrifice. And Marcus Chun had always been willing to sacrifice everything for success. Would you like me to continue with the next part of the story? Or would you prefer to explore a different aspect of Marcus's character? Today, we'll discuss the impact of globalization on developing economies. She began, her voice steady despite the churning in her stomach. The nausea wasn't just morning sickness anymore. It was the weight of uncertainty that seemed to grow heavier with each passing day. A student raised her hand. Professor Martinez, are you feeling all right? You look a bit pale. Sophia forced a smile, gripping the podium tighter. I'm fine, thank you, Jessica. Now, if we look at the case study, the room suddenly tilted, colors blurring at the edges of her vision. She reached for her water bottle, but it slipped through her trembling fingers, clattering to the floor. The sound seemed distant, as if underwater. Professor. Several students rushed forward as Sophia steadied herself against the desk. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, Marcus's face lighting up the screen. For a moment, hope fluttered in her chest, but it was just another automated calendar reminder. Marcus, business trip to Singapore. I should call someone, a student said, already dialing. No, please, Sophia protested weakly, but her body betrayed her as another wave of dizziness hit. I just need a moment. In the campus medical center an hour later, the nurse took her blood pressure with a concerned frown. Mrs. Chen, your pressure is quite high. Have you been under stress lately? Sophia laughed, a hollow sound that echoed off the sterile walls. My husband. He's building an empire, she whispered, tears finally breaking free. I just wish he could see that we're crumbling here at home. Her phone buzzed again. A message from Marcus. Big meeting. Can't talk now. Take care. 3 words. Take care. As if those 2 words could bridge the ocean between them, could fill the empty spaces in their home, could soothe the fears of a woman carrying their child alone. The nurse placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. You're not just caring for yourself anymore, dear. You need support. Sophia wiped her tears, straightening her back. I know, she said, her voice finding its strength again. But how do you make someone understand that success means nothing if you're too busy building walls to see the bridges burning? Outside, storm clouds gathered over the city, mirroring the tempest brewing in Sophia's heart. She placed both hands on her belly, feeling the slight swell that held their future. We'll be okay, little one, she whispered, though she wasn't sure who she was trying to convince more, her unborn child or herself. The rain began to fall, pattering against the window like nature's own tears. As Sophia faced the reality that sometimes the hardest battles aren't fought in boardrooms or lecture halls, but in the quiet moments when you realize love alone isn't enough to keep someone by your side. The sleek conference room on the 47th floor buzzed with anticipation as Marcus sat at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. The Hong Kong skyline provided a dramatic backdrop as Mr. Zhang, the CEO of Asia's largest technology conglomerate, cleared his throat. "Mr. Chan, what we're offering is unprecedented." Zhang's voice carried authority. "Full partnership, expansion into 12 new markets, and," he paused for effect, "complete control of our Southeast Asian operations." Marcus's heart raced, but his face remained impassive. Years of negotiations had taught him to mask his emotions. His phone vibrated silently. Sophia's name appeared, then disappeared. "The third missed call today." "The catch, Mr. Zhang?" Marcus leaned forward, his voice steady. "We need you in Singapore. Permanently. At least for the next few years." Zhang's eyes gleamed. "The transition must begin immediately. This week." The words hung in the air like heavy smoke. Marcus's mind flashed to Sophia's ultrasound picture, tucked away in his wallet, still unviewed. "I have personal considerations," Marcus began, but Zhang cut him off. "Personal considerations?" Zhang laughed, but there was no warmth in it. "Mr. Chun, do you know how many would kill for this opportunity? This is your chance to become a legend in Asian business. Your unborn child will thank you when they inherit an empire instead of just a company." The conference room door opened, and his assistant slipped in, passing him a note. "Emergency call from Sophia's doctor." Marcus's fingers crumpled the paper, his knuckles white. Zhang was still talking, laying out figures that made his head spin. Billions in potential revenue, market dominance, everything he'd ever dreamed of. His phone buzzed again. This time a text from Sophia. "Please, I need you. Something's wrong." "Mr. Chan?" Zhang's voice cut through his thoughts. "We need an answer. Now, the papers are ready." Marcus stood up slowly, walking to the window. Below, the city stretched endlessly, a maze of possibilities and promises. Behind him, his dream waited in the form of contracts and handshakes. Before him, through the glass, clouds gathered on the horizon. "Time waits for no one in business, Mr. Chan," Zhang added, his tone growing impatient. "Empires are built on decisive moments like this." Marcus turned back to the table, his decision crystallizing like ice in his veins. "How soon can we begin the transition?" "Your flight to Singapore leaves tonight." Zhang smiled, sliding the contracts forward. "Sign here, and your legacy begins." As Marcus's pen touched the paper, thunder rolled in the distance. He signed his name with practiced efficiency, each stroke of the pen drawing a line between the man he was and the man he was choosing to become. "Welcome to the future, Mr. Chun," Zhang declared, standing to shake his hand. Marcus's phone buzzed one final time before he silenced it completely. Outside, the storm finally broke, rain lashing against the windows like tears on a face he couldn't bear to see. "A few months," Marcus repeated, not meeting her eyes as he folded another designer suit. "Just until the transition is complete." "You're lying," Sophia's voice cracked. "To me or to yourself, I'm not sure which is worse." Her hand protectively cradled her stomach. "The doctor said there might be complications. I need you here." Marcus paused, his hand hovering over his passport. "I've arranged for the best medical care. Money won't be an issue." "Money?" Sophia laughed bitterly. "Is that what you think this is about? Our baby might not." She choked on the words. "I might not be able to. And all you can talk about is money?" Thunder rumbled outside as Marcus finally turned to face her. The distance between them felt like miles, though only a few feet separated them physically. "This deal will secure our future," he said, his voice softening slightly. "Everything I do for us." Sophia stepped forward, grabbing his hand and placing it on her belly. "Feel that? That's our future, Marcus. Right here." Right now. For a moment, something flickered in Marcus's eyes, doubt, fear, or perhaps regret. But then his phone chimed with a message from Zhang. Car waiting downstairs. Don't miss this flight. Marcus gently removed his hand from Sophia's stomach, turning back to his suitcase. I'll video call every day. I'll fly back when I can. If you walk out that door, Sophia's voice was barely a whisper. You're choosing that empire over your family. Over me. Over our child. Marcus zipped his suitcase closed. The sound final and devastating in the quiet room. It's not that simple. It is that simple. Sophia's voice rose, breaking with emotion. Stay. Choose us. Just this once. Choose love over ambition. The penthouse intercom buzzed. His driver was waiting. Marcus grabbed his suitcase, moving toward the door. Each step felt heavier than the last. I'll call when I land, he said, not turning back. Marcus, Sophia called out one last time. If you leave now, don't expect us to be waiting when you decide to return. He paused in the doorway, his knuckles white on the suitcase handle. The moment stretched like an eternity, filled with everything they'd never said, everything they might never get to say. Then, without another word, Marcus Chun walked out of their home, out of their life, leaving behind the sound of Sophia's muffled sobs and the growing storm outside. In the elevator, he straightened his tie, pushed down the rising tide of emotion, and opened his email to review the Singapore contracts. After all, he told himself, some sacrifices were necessary for greatness. But as the elevator descended, carrying him away from everything he claimed to be fighting for, even Marcus couldn't ignore the hollow feeling in his chest, the sensation that he might be making the biggest mistake of his life. Marcus, please. Her voice echoed through the empty space. Just listen to me for 1 minute. He stopped, his back still turned, water dripping from his expensive overcoat onto the polished floor. The doorman pretended to be busy with his phone, giving them the illusion of privacy. The doctor called again while you were packing. Sophia's voice trembled. They found something in the last ultrasound. Something that could. She struggled to find the words. That could change everything. Marcus slowly turned, his facade cracking slightly. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating Sophia's tears. They think. She placed both hands on her stomach. They think there might be more than one heartbeat. The suitcase slipped slightly in Marcus's grip. For a moment, the ambitious businessman disappeared, replaced by a glimpse of the man Sophia had fallen in love with years ago. More than, he whispered, I need you at the appointment tomorrow. Sophia stepped closer, hope flickering in her eyes. Just delay your flight by 1 day. Please, we need to face this together. Marcus's phone buzzed again. Zhang's name flashing on the screen. The spell broke. His expression hardened, the mask sliding back into place. I can't, he said, each word falling like ice between them. This deal. It's everything I've worked for. Everything we've worked for. No. Sophia's voice rose, raw with emotion. This isn't what we worked for. We worked for a life together. Family. Remember what you promised on our wedding day. Nothing will ever come between us. Thunder crashed outside as Marcus looked down at his phone again. The car is waiting. I have to go. Then go. Sophia suddenly shouted, her voice breaking. Go build your precious empire. But remember this moment, Marcus Chun. Remember when you chose cold steel and empty promises over the beating hearts of your own flesh and blood. The doorman dropped all pretense of not listening, his eyes wide at the scene unfolding before him. Sophia, you're being dramatic. Dramatic? She laughed, a hollow sound that echoed through the lobby. Dramatic is choosing a business deal over being there when your wife needs you most. Dramatic is walking away from your family for a corner office in Singapore. Marcus took a step toward the door, but Sophia's next words froze him in place. If you walk out that door, her voice dropped to a whisper. I swear to God, Marcus, you'll regret this moment for the rest of your life. He stood there, caught between two worlds, the empire he dreamed of building and the family he was about to lose. The silence stretched between them, filled only by the sound of rain and distant thunder. Finally, Marcus straightened his tie, gripped his suitcase tighter, and spoke without turning around. "I'll make it up to you. Both of you. Promise." As the automatic doors slid open, letting in a gust of cold rain, Sophia's last words followed him into the storm. "Some promises, Marcus, once broken, can never be repaired." The car door closed behind him, and through the tinted windows, he caught one last glimpse of Sophia, a solitary figure in the lobby, one hand on her stomach, the other covering her mouth to stifle her sobs. As the car pulled away, Marcus turned his phone off completely, trying to silence the voice in his head screaming that he was making the biggest mistake of his life. Mrs. Chan, Maria, their housekeeper, rushed to her side. "Oh, Dios mío, let me help you up." "He's gone, Maria," Sophia whispered, her voice raw. "He really left us." The security phone buzzed. "Mrs. Chun, Mr. Chen's car just exited the garage. Should we?" "Turn it off," she commanded, her voice breaking. "Turn everything off." Sophia's hand trembled as she reached for her phone, opening their last text conversation. The blue dots appeared. Marcus was typing. She held her breath, waiting. The dots disappeared. Nothing. "Come, Senora." Maria helped her to the couch. "Think of the baby. You need to stay calm." But calm was impossible as Sophia's world crumbled around her. She looked around their perfectly decorated home. All chrome, glass, and emptiness. Everything screamed success, but nothing whispered love. Her phone rang. The hospital. With shaking hands, she answered. "Mrs. Chan? This is Dr. Reynolds. We need you to come in immediately. Those readings from earlier. We need to run more tests." The room started spinning. I can't. My husband." "Mrs. Chun," the doctor's voice grew serious. "This can't wait until tomorrow. We're seeing multiple heartbeats. But there's something concerning about the patterns." Maria was already grabbing Sophia's coat. Outside, lightning split the sky as Sophia struggled to her feet, one hand pressed against her stomach. "Your empire better be worth it, Marcus," she whispered to the empty room. "Because the price you're paying. The price we're all paying." Her voice cracked as another wave of pain hit her. The elevator doors opened, and as Maria helped her inside, Sophia caught her reflection in the mirrored walls, pale, trembling, but somehow still standing. The woman staring back at her wasn't just Marcus Chen's abandoned wife anymore. She was something stronger, something fiercer. "Mrs. Chun?" Maria squeezed her hand. "Should we try calling Mr. Chen again?" Sophia watched the floor numbers descend, each one taking her further from the life she'd known. "No," she said finally, her voice finding new strength. "He made his choice. Now I have to make mine." As they stepped out into the storm, Sophia felt something shift inside her. Not just the babies, but something deeper. The part of her that had been Marcus Chen's wife was washing away in the rain, leaving behind a woman who would have to be strong enough for not just one, but possibly several lives depending on her. Thunder crashed overhead as the hospital's emergency entrance came into view. Sophia placed both hands protectively over her stomach, whispering, "It's just us now, little ones. But I promise you this. You will never have to wonder if you're worth staying for." The automatic doors slid open, revealing a team of medical staff waiting with a wheelchair. As Sophia was rushed inside, leaving wet footprints on the sterile floor, she caught one last glimpse of the storm outside, nature's fury matching the tempest in her heart. "Mrs. Chun," Dr. Reynolds paused, adjusting the screen. "What I'm about to tell you will change everything." Sophia's fingers clutched the paper-covered examination table. "Just tell me they're okay. What we're looking at here," the doctor pointed to the screen, "are 4 distinct heartbeats." The room seemed to tilt on its axis. "For," Sophia whispered, her voice barely audible. "Quadruplets," Dr. Reynolds confirmed, her expression grave. "But there's more. The positioning and shared blood supply between 2 of them. This is a high-risk pregnancy. Extremely high risk." Thunder rattled the window panes as Sophia struggled to process the information. Her phone lay silent on the side table. No calls. No messages from Marcus. His flight would be taking off now, carrying him across an ocean away from this moment. What are my chances? Sophia asked, her hand protectively covering her stomach. Dr. Reynolds sat down, removing her glasses. With proper care and constant monitoring, we can try to carry them to 32 weeks. But Sophia, she leaned forward, you'll need complete bed rest. Round-the-clock care. A strong support system. A bitter laugh escaped Sophia's lips. My support system is currently somewhere over the Pacific Ocean. Chasing his dreams, the machine continued its steady rhythm. For tiny hearts, beating in defiance of the odds. Sophia closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. I need to be honest with you, Dr. Reynolds continued. There's a significant risk to both you and the babies. We might have to make some difficult decisions in the coming months. Maria, who had been quietly standing in the corner, stepped forward. She won't be alone, doctor. We'll help her. Sophia's eyes snapped open, fixing on the ultrasound screen. For tiny forms, for miraculous lives, all depending on her strength. In that moment, something crystallized in her heart. A fierce determination that transcended her pain and fear. What do I need to do? She asked, her voice steady for the first time that night. As Dr. Reynolds outlined the intensive care plan, Sophia's phone lit up with a text. Not from Marcus, but from his assistant. Mr. Chun has landed safely in Singapore. He sends his regards. Sophia picked up the phone, her finger hovering over the delete button. Then, with quiet resolve, she turned it off completely. Your babies, Dr. Reynolds said, printing the ultrasound image, they're fighters. All 4 of them. But this journey, it won't be easy. Neither was loving a man who could walk away from his family. Sophia replied, her voice thick with emotion. But these little ones? She touched the screen gently. They're not walking away from me, and I'm not walking away from them. Outside, the storm began to subside. But inside Sophia's heart, a different kind of storm was brewing. One made of equal parts fear and determination, of heartbreak and hope, of endings and beginnings. Your life is about to become very complicated, Dr. Reynolds warned, handling Sophia the ultrasound prints. Sophia stared at the 4 tiny shapes, each one a miracle, each one a challenge, each one a reason to be stronger than she ever thought possible. No, she whispered, my life is about to become very clear. Mr. Chun, his new assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. Mr. Zhang is here for the board meeting. Marcus straightened his tie, catching his reflection in the window, designer suit, perfect hair, empty eyes. His phone showed dozens of missed calls from Maria, but none from Sophia. Her last message from weeks ago remained unread. Hospital results. Important. Marcus. Zhang burst into the office, radiating enthusiasm. The numbers from Q1 are extraordinary. Your decision to relocate was brilliant. The word decision hit Marcus like a physical blow. He turned to face Zhang, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. The European markets are next, Zhang continued, spreading documents across the desk. We're looking at triple the projected growth. Marcus nodded mechanically, his attention drawn to a notification on his laptop. A social media update from one of Sophia's friends. Prayer circle for Sophia and the babies. Stay strong. Babies. Plural. Marcus? Are you listening? Zhang's voice cut through his thoughts. The European markets, Marcus repeated automatically, his finger hovering over the notification. Yes, of course. His phone buzzed again, Maria calling. For the first time in weeks, he reached for it. The meeting, Marcus, Zhang reminded sharply. The board is waiting. Marcus's hand froze. The phone kept buzzing, Maria's name flashing like an accusation. Coming, he said, silencing the phone once more. As he gathered his papers, his wedding ring caught the light. He'd forgotten he was still wearing it. In the elevator heading to the boardroom, Marcus pulled up his banking app. Sophia's account showed multiple transfers to various medical specialists. His finger traced the growing list of transactions, each one a story he wasn't part of, each one a reminder of his absence. Your empire is rising, Zhang said proudly as they entered the boardroom. Soon, you'll be the most powerful man in Asian business. Marcus took his seat at the head of the table, surrounded by eager faces and ambitious plans. But as he began his presentation, his voice faltering only slightly, he couldn't shake the image of Sophia alone in a hospital room, facing whatever truth those medical bills represented. The future, he announced to the board, is about expansion, about growth, about... His voice caught as his eyes landed on a small news notification on his tablet. Local professor takes extended leave for high-risk pregnancy. Mr. Chan? Someone prompted. The future. Marcus cleared his throat, straightening in his chair. Yes, the future. The future is about choices. As he continued his presentation, his words echoing through the pristine boardroom, Marcus Chan realized he was building an empire on the foundation of his greatest loss, and no amount of success could fill the growing void in his chest. Your blood pressure is still too high, Dr. Reynolds frowned, studying the monitors. And baby C's heartbeat is showing some irregularities. Sophia shifted uncomfortably in the hospital bed, her hands protectively cradling her swollen belly. The room was filled with flowers and cards from her students and colleagues, but the emptiness beside her bed spoke volumes. Tell me the truth, Sophia whispered, watching the heart monitors. What are our chances? Before Dr. Reynolds could answer, Maria burst into the room, waving her phone. Senora Sophia, look at this. On the screen was a business magazine's digital cover. Marcus Chan, the rising dragon of Asian markets. The photo showed him at some gala, champagne in hand, surrounded by admirers. Sophia turned away, her heart monitor spiking. Maria, please. Lo siento. Maria quickly tucked the phone away, but the damage was done. Dr. Reynolds checked the readings with concern. Sophia, you need to stay calm. These babies respond to your stress levels. Calm? Sophia laughed bitterly, tears streaming down her face. I'm carrying quadruplets, confined to this bed, fighting every day to keep them alive. While their father, she choked on the words. The night nurse, Jenny, entered with Sophia's evening medications. Oh honey, you should see the sunset. It's beautiful tonight. I haven't seen the sun set or rise in weeks, Sophia murmured, staring at the ceiling. Sometimes I forget what the world looks like beyond these walls. A sharp pain shot through her abdomen, causing her to gasp. The monitors erupted in a chorus of alarms. Blood pressure 160/95. Jenny called out, already moving to adjust medications. Sophia, look at me, Dr. Reynolds commanded. Focus on my voice. Think about those 4 little fighters inside you. They need you to be strong. Sophia closed her eyes, trying to steady her breathing. I talk to them, she whispered. Every night. I tell them about their father, about who he used to be, before ambition ate his heart. The room fell silent except for the gradually steadying beep of monitors. I tell them that somewhere, in some glass tower in Singapore, there's a man who doesn't know what he's missing. Sophia continued, her voice growing stronger. A man who chose empty success over the chance to hear their first cries, to count their tiny fingers and toes. Dr. Reynolds checked the monitors again, relief washing over her face as the numbers stabilized. That's it, Sophia. Keep talking to them. They hear you. They know their mama's fighting for them. Sophia placed her hands on different parts of her stomach, feeling the various movements within. My little warriors, she whispered. We don't need an empire, do we? We just need each other. As night fell outside the hospital window, Sophia lay in her bed, surrounded by machines keeping watch over 5 precious lives. In the quiet darkness, she began her nightly ritual. Once upon a time, she whispered to her unborn children, there was a man who thought he could find happiness in steel and glass. But what he didn't know was that true wealth was growing right here, under my heart, in the form of 4 tiny miracles who will never have to chase empty dreams to know their worth. The monitors beeped steadily, for distinct heartbeats joining in harmony with their mothers. A symphony of survival, of love, of defiance against all odds. We need to get her to the OR now, Dr. Reynolds shouted, her voice steady despite the chaos. Prep for emergency C-section. Sophia gripped the sides of the gurney, her face contorted in pain. "It's too soon," she gasped. "They're not ready." Maria ran alongside, clutching Sophia's hand. "Dios mío, should we call Mr. Chan?" Sophia's eyes flashed with a mix of pain and determination. "No," she gritted through clenched teeth. "He made his choice. These babies are mine to fight for." The operating room doors burst open, a team of doctors and nurses swarming around Sophia. The anesthesiologist approached with a mask. "Sophia, we need to put you under," Dr. Reynolds explained quickly. "The babies are in distress. We don't have time for an epidural." Terror gripped Sophia's heart. "But I want to be awake. I need to see them, to know they're okay." Dr. Reynolds leaned in close, her eyes locking with Sophia's. "I promise you, we will do everything in our power to bring all 5 of you through this. But right now, I need you to trust us." Sophia nodded, tears streaming down her face. As the mask lowered over her nose and mouth, she whispered, "My little warriors, be strong. Mama's right here." The world faded to black as the anesthesia took hold. In the hazy realm between consciousness and oblivion, Sophia thought she heard a familiar voice calling her name. Marcus? But no, he was oceans away, chasing his empire while she fought for their children's lives. Hours passed in a blink for Sophia, but for the medical team, it was a battle against time and nature. One by one, for tiny cries pierced the tense atmosphere of the operating room. Baby A? Girl, 3 pounds 2 ounces. Baby B? Boy, 2 pounds 15 ounces. Baby C? Girl, 2 pounds 8 ounces. She needs oxygen. Get her to NICU stat. Baby D? Boy, 3 pounds even. As the last baby was whisked away to the neonatal intensive care unit, Dr. Reynolds turned her attention back to Sophia, whose vitals had become erratic. "We're losing her," someone shouted. "BP's dropping." In the waiting room, Maria paced anxiously, her rosary beads clicking between her fingers. The door burst open, and a disheveled figure rushed in. Marcus, his expensive suit wrinkled, his eyes wild with fear. "Sophia Chen," he panted. "My wife. Where is she?" Before Maria could respond, Dr. Reynolds emerged, her surgical gown splattered with blood. The look on her face made Marcus's heart stop. "Mr. Chun," she began, her voice heavy, "you have 4 premature but fighting babies in the NICU." But Sophia, she paused, the weight of her words palpable. "We're doing everything we can, but you should prepare yourself. The next few hours will be critical." Marcus stumbled back as if physically struck. The empire he'd built, the deals he'd made, none of it mattered in the sterile hallway where life and death hung in the balance. "Can I?" His voice broke. "Can I see them?" Dr. Reynolds nodded solemnly. "Follow me. Your children are waiting to meet their father." As Marcus walked towards the NICU, the magnitude of what he'd almost lost, what he might still lose, crashed over him. Each step was a reminder of his absence, each beep of a monitor an accusation of his choices. The sight that greeted him behind the NICU glass would be forever etched in his memory. For impossibly tiny beings, wrapped in wires and tubes, fighting for every breath. And Sophia, his warrior, his heart, lying silent in a recovery room, waging her own battle for survival. In that moment, Marcus Chun, the rising dragon of Asian markets, realized that the true measure of a man's worth wasn't in his bank account or his business empire. It was in the tiny fingers that curled around his as he reached into the incubator, in the strength of the woman who had carried these miracles alone, and in the second chance he prayed he wasn't too late to seize. Shall I continue with the next emotional turn in this gripping saga? Mr. Chan? A gentle voice broke through his exhausted haze. Nurse Jenny approached, holding a clipboard. "It's time for their feeding. Would you like to try?" Marcus looked up, his eyes red-rimmed and uncertain. I don't know how." Jenny smiled encouragingly. "There's no better time to learn. Come on, I'll show you." With trembling hands, Marcus lifted his daughter, Baby A. They were still using letters until Sophia woke up to name them from the incubator. She was so light, barely there, like holding a breath. "Support her head," Jenny instructed softly. That's it. Now hold the bottle just so. As the tiny girl began to suckle, Marcus felt something crack open inside him. Tears he'd been holding back for days finally spilled over. I missed so much, he whispered, his voice breaking. I should have been here. You're here now, Jenny reassured him. That's what matters. A commotion outside the NICU drew their attention. Dr. Reynolds rushed past, her face a mix of concern and hope. What's happening? Marcus asked, his heart racing. It's your wife, Jenny said, quickly taking the baby. Go. I've got them. Marcus sprinted down the corridor, his heart pounding in his ears. He burst into Sophia's room just as her eyes fluttered open for the first time in days. Sophia, he breathed, hardly daring to believe it. Her gaze, unfocused at first, slowly settled on him. A range of emotions flickered across her face. Confusion, pain, and then anger. Why are you here? She croaked, her voice hoarse from intubation. Marcus moved to her bedside, reaching for her hand, but she weakly pulled away. Sophia, I'm so sorry. I should have never left. The babies, she interrupted, her eyes wide with fear. Are they? They're alive, Marcus assured her quickly. All four. They're fighters, just like their mother. Relief washed over Sophia's face, quickly replaced by determination. I want to see them. Dr. Reynolds stepped in. Sophia, you've just woken up. You need to rest. No, Sophia insisted, trying to sit up. I've been away from them too long already. Please. Marcus and Dr. Reynolds exchanged glances, then nodded. Carefully, they helped Sophia into a wheelchair. As they entered the NICU, Sophia's breath caught in her throat. For incubators, for tiny lives, each one a miracle. Oh, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. My little warriors. Marcus knelt beside her wheelchair. They're perfect, Sophia. You did this. You brought them into the world. You fought for them when His voice broke. When I failed you all. Sophia turned to him, really looking at him for the first time. The polished businessman was gone, replaced by an exhausted, humbled man. I don't know if I can forgive you, she said quietly. But right now that doesn't matter. They need both of us. As if on cue, baby C, the smallest of the quadruplets, began to fuss. Without hesitation, Marcus stood and gently lifted her from the incubator, cradling her with a newfound confidence. Here, he said softly, placing the baby in Sophia's arms. Meet your daughter. Sophia gasped as she held her child for the first time, feeling the weight of love and responsibility settle on her heart. Hello, little one, she whispered. I'm your mama. And that, she glanced up at Marcus, a mix of emotions swirling in her eyes. That's your papa. We've all been waiting to meet you. As the family huddled together in the NICU, surrounded by beeping monitors and the soft coos of newborns, Marcus realized that the true empire he needed to build wasn't made of steel and glass, but of love, forgiveness, and the tiny heartbeats that now synchronized with his own. Marcus entered, his tie loosened, dark circles under his eyes. He paused, taking in the scene before him, a sight that still took his breath away. How was your day? Sophia asked, her voice tinged with a coolness that hadn't fully thawed since his return. Long, Marcus sighed, kneeling down to kiss each baby's forehead. But nothing compared to yours, I'm sure. Sophia nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips despite herself. Olivia tried to roll over today, she said, gesturing to baby A and Lucas. She pointed to baby D. I swear he almost said, Mama. Marcus beamed with pride, but it quickly faded as he noticed Sophia's exhausted expression. Why don't you take a break? I can handle them for a while. Sophia hesitated, old wounds still raw. Are you sure? You have that big conference call. I'll reschedule, Marcus said firmly. This is more important. As Sophia retreated to their bedroom, Marcus settled in with the babies. He picked up Ethan, formerly baby B, who was starting to fuss. Hey there, little man, he cooed. What's got you all worked up, huh? As he changed Ethan's diaper with newfound expertise, his phone buzzed incessantly. Email notifications from Zhang and the board flooded in, each one more urgent than the last. Marcus glanced at the bedroom door, then back at his children. With a deep breath, he silenced his phone and tossed it aside. Hours passed as Marcus juggled feeding times, diaper changes, and playtime. As night fell, Sophia emerged, looking slightly more rested but still guarded. "They're all asleep," Marcus whispered gently, placing Emma, baby C, in her crib. Even managed to get them all fed and bathed. Sophia's eyes widened in surprise. "You did all that?" Marcus nodded, a mixture of exhaustion and pride on his face. "I had a lot of time to make up for." Sophia's expression softened slightly. "Thank you," she said quietly. They stood in silence, watching their sleeping miracles. Suddenly, Marcus's phone lit up with a video call. Zhang's face appeared on the screen. "Marcus, where have you been? The Singapore deal is falling apart. We need you on a plane tonight." Sophia tensed, her eyes darting between Marcus and the phone. This was it, the moment of truth. Marcus took a deep breath, his gaze never leaving his family. "I'm sorry, Zhang, but I'm exactly where I need to be." "What are you talking about?" Zhang sputtered. "This deal could make or break the company." "Then let it break," Marcus said firmly. "I've already broken something far more valuable once. I won't make that mistake again." He ended the call, turning to face Sophia. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "Marcus," she whispered, "what are you doing?" He stepped closer, taking her hands in his. "Building the only empire that matters. Right here with you and our children. If you'll have me." Sophia searched his face, years of hurt battling with the hope blooming in her chest. "And if I say it's not that easy, that trust, once shattered, takes more than grand gestures to rebuild." Marcus nodded, his eyes full of determination. "Then we'll rebuild it day by day, diaper by diaper." "I'm not going anywhere, Sophia. Not ever again." As if on cue, Olivia began to stir in her crib. Without hesitation, both parents moved to comfort her, their hands brushing as they reached for their daughter. In that touch, in the soft glow of the nursery night light, a fragile bridge began to form over the chasm Marcus had created. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. "One day at a time," Marcus whispered, hope flickering in his eyes. Sophia nodded, a small but genuine smile gracing her lips for the first time in months. One day at a time, as they stood together, soothing their daughter back to sleep, the true foundation of their new empire, one built on love, presence, and unwavering commitment, began to take shape. "Gotcha!" Sophia exclaimed, scooping up Olivia and spinning her around. The little girl's giggles filled the air, soon joined by her siblings clamoring for their turn. Marcus's phone buzzed, another email from the board. He glanced at it briefly before turning it face down. The empire he'd once prioritized above all else was now a distant second to the joy unfolding before him. "Daddy, play!" Lucas tugged at Marcus's pant leg, his brown eyes wide with expectation. "Of course, buddy," Marcus smiled, lifting his son onto his lap. "What shall we play today?" As the family engaged in an impromptu game of Tickle Monster, the doorbell rang. Sophia, breathless from laughter, went to answer it. "Mr. Zhang," her voice, tinged with surprise and a hint of apprehension, carried through the apartment. Marcus froze, his heart racing. Zhang stood in the doorway, his usual impeccable suit a stark contrast to the toy-strewn living room. "Marcus," Zhang nodded curtly. "We need to talk." "The company is doing fine without my daily involvement," Marcus interrupted, standing up with Ethan in his arms. "I told you, Zhang, my priorities have changed." Zhang's eyes darted around the room, taking in the domestic scene with barely concealed disdain. "You've thrown away everything we built for this?" The room fell silent, the weight of the moment palpable. Sophia's eyes locked with Marcus's, a mixture of fear and defiance in her gaze. This was the test they'd both been dreading. Marcus took a deep breath, setting Ethan down gently. He walked over to Sophia, placing a protective arm around her waist. "I haven't thrown away anything," he said firmly. "I've gained everything that truly matters." Zhang scoffed, The board is meeting next week. Your position as CEO is on the line. Is this really the legacy you want to leave? Marcus looked around at his children, at Sophia, at the life they'd rebuilt together. In their eyes, he saw not the reflection of a failed businessman, but of a father, a husband, a man who had found his true purpose. My legacy, Marcus said softly, but with unwavering conviction, is right here in this room. These children, this family, that's what I'll be remembered for. Not some numbers on a spreadsheet or my name on a building. Sophia squeezed his hand, tears glistening in her eyes. It was the final confirmation she'd been waiting for, the proof that the man she'd fallen in love with had truly returned. Zhang shook his head, disappointment etched on his face. You're making a mistake, Marcus. One you can't come back from. As Zhang turned to leave, Emma toddled up to him, offering a slightly slobbered-on stuffed animal. Play, she asked innocently. For a moment, Zhang's stern expression softened. He knelt down, gently declining the toy. No, little one. I'm afraid I don't know how. As the door closed behind Zhang, a weight lifted from the room. Marcus turned to Sophia, cupping her face in his hands. I'm sorry it took me so long to realize what truly mattered, he whispered. Thank you for giving me a second chance. Sophia leaned into his touch, years of hurt finally melting away. We gave each other a second chance, she corrected softly. And look what we've built. Their moment was interrupted by a chorus of group hug, as 4 pairs of little arms wrapped around their legs. Marcus and Sophia laughed, bending down to envelop their children in a warm embrace. As they held each other, surrounded by the beautiful chaos of their life, Marcus realized that he had indeed built an empire, one of love, forgiveness, and unbreakable family bonds. It was an empire that would stand the test of time, long after skyscrapers had crumbled and fortunes had faded. So, Sophia grinned, her eyes twinkling with mischief and love. What's next for the Chun family? Marcus looked at each smiling face, his heart full to bursting. Whatever it is, he said, we'll face it together. All 6 of us. And as the family launched into another round of tickles and laughter, the true meaning of success became crystal clear. It wasn't measured in dollars or deals, but in the moments of pure joy shared with those you love most. Echoing through the air made it clear this was where they truly belonged. Marcus stood at the grill, flipping burgers with the expertise of a man who'd traded boardroom meetings for family dinners. Sophia emerged from the house, carrying a tray of lemonade, her eyes twinkling as she watched their now 4-year-old quadruplets chase each other around the yard. Daddy, watch this, Olivia called out, attempting a wobbly cartwheel on the grass. Marcus beamed with pride. That's amazing, sweetheart. You'll be in the Olympics before we know it. As Sophia set the tray down on the patio table, she noticed Marcus's phone lighting up with a familiar name. Zhang again, she asked, a hint of concern in her voice. Marcus nodded, glancing at the phone before turning his attention back to the grill. 3rd time this week. The company's facing a major merger decision. Sophia touched his arm gently. Do you ever regret it? Walking away from all that? Marcus turned to her, his eyes full of warmth and certainty. Not for a single moment. But, Sophia prodded, sensing there was more. Before Marcus could respond, a commotion from the yard interrupted them. Lucas had climbed too high in the old oak tree and was now clinging to a branch, fear etched on his little face. Daddy, Mommy, help, he cried out. Without hesitation, Marcus sprinted across the lawn, positioning himself under the tree. It's okay, buddy. Daddy's right here. You can let go, I'll catch you. Lucas shook his head, tears streaming down his cheeks. I'm scared. Sophia joined Marcus, her heart racing. We're both here, sweetheart. You can do it. We won't let you fall. The other children gathered around, watching with wide eyes as their brother faced his fear. Slowly, trembling, Lucas released his grip on the branch. For a heart-stopping moment, he fell through the air. Then, with a soft thud, he landed safely in Marcus's waiting arms. I did it! Lucas exclaimed, his fear transforming into exhilaration. Marcus hugged him tightly, his own eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You sure did, champ. I'm so proud of you." As they walked back to the patio, the family gathering close in a group hug, Marcus's phone buzzed once more. This time he picked it up, putting it on speaker. "Zhang, you're on speaker with my family," he said calmly. Zhang's voice crackled through, a mix of frustration and desperation. "Marcus, we need you. The merger, it's falling apart. Your insight, your experience, the company won't survive without it." The children fell silent, sensing the weight of the moment. Sophia's hand found Marcus's, squeezing it supportively. Marcus took a deep breath, looking at each face of his family before responding. "Zhang, I made a choice 4 years ago. The right choice. But that doesn't mean I stopped caring about the company or the people who work there." He paused, meeting Sophia's gaze. She nodded, understanding dawning in her eyes. "I won't come back as CEO," Marcus continued, "but I'd be willing to consult. Part-time from home. My family comes first, always. But if I can help without sacrificing what matters most, I'm willing to try." Zhang's relief was palpable. "Thank you, Marcus. We'll make it work." As the call ended, Sophia wrapped her arms around Marcus. "Are you sure about this?" Marcus smiled, pulling her close. "I'm sure about us. About our family. Everything else, we'll figure it out together. Like we always do." Olivia tugged at Marcus's shirt. "Daddy, does this mean you're going back to your big office?" Marcus knelt down, gathering all 4 children in his arms. "No, sweethearts. It means Daddy's going to help some old friends. But right here, from our home. Because home is where the real magic happens." As the family returned to their barbecue, the burgers slightly overcooked but the love overflowing, Marcus realized he had finally achieved the perfect balance. He wasn't just a businessman or just a father. He was both on his own terms. And in that moment, watching his children play and his wife laugh in the fading sunlight, he knew he had built something far greater than any corporate empire. He had built a life of purpose, love, and endless possibilities. "So," Sophia grinned, handing him a slightly charred burger. "Ready for our next adventure?" Marcus looked at his beautiful family, his heart full to bursting. "With you all by my side? Always." And as the stars began to twinkle in the twilight sky, the Chen family embraced their future, one filled with challenges, joy, and the unshakable bond of love that had brought them through it all. His phone rang almost immediately. Zhang's name flashed on the screen. "Marcus," Zhang's voice was tight with tension. "Have you seen the news?" "Just now," Marcus replied, his mind already racing. "How bad is it?" "Bad. They're moving fast. We need you in Singapore now." Marcus glanced at the family photos lining his desk, his heart torn. "Zhang, I can't just—" A soft knock interrupted him. Sophia stood in the doorway, concern etched on her face. She'd overheard enough to understand the gravity of the situation. "Go," she said softly. "We'll be okay." Marcus covered the phone. "Sophia, I promised I'd never—" "You promised you'd never abandon us," she corrected gently. "This isn't abandonment. This is you helping people who need you. We'll be right here when you get back." Emotion welled up in Marcus's throat. He nodded, turning back to the phone. "I'll be on the next flight, Zhang." As Marcus packed his bag, the children gathered in the doorway of the master bedroom, their faces a mix of curiosity and concern. "Dad, are you leaving us?" Ethan asked, his voice small. Marcus knelt down, looking each of his children in the eye. "Never. I'm going to help some people who are in trouble. But I'll be back before you know it. Promise?" Emma whispered, her lower lip trembling. "I promise," Marcus said firmly. "And I always keep my promises to you guys. Right?" The children nodded, somewhat reassured. As Marcus zipped up his suitcase, Sophia entered with his passport and a small wrapped package. "What's this?" he asked, taking the gift. "Open it on the plane," she smiled, a hint of mischief in her eyes. At the airport, Marcus hugged his family tightly, memorizing the feeling of their embrace. As he walked toward security, he turned back for one last look. Sophia and the quadruplets stood together, waving and blowing kisses. His heart swelled with love and determination. Hours later, somewhere over the Pacific, Marcus finally opened the package. Inside was a framed photo of the family, taken just last week at the kids' school play. Tucked into the corner of the frame was a note in Sophia's handwriting. "Remember what you're fighting for. We believe in you. Come home soon. Love, your true empire." Tears pricked Marcus's eyes as he traced the smiling faces in the photo. He may have been flying towards his old world of high-stakes business, but his heart remained firmly anchored to the life he'd built with Sophia and their children. As the captain announced their descent into Singapore, Marcus straightened his tie and took a deep breath. He was no longer just fighting for a company. He was fighting for the future of the family that had given him a second chance at life. The lights of Singapore glittered below, a familiar sight that now felt strangely foreign. As the plane touched down, Marcus's phone buzzed with a message from Sophia. "You've got this. We're all rooting for you. Remember, win or lose, you're our hero." With renewed determination, Marcus stepped off the plane. He was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that win or lose, he had already won life's greatest prize, a family's unwavering love and trust. The real battle was about to begin, and Marcus Chun was prepared to fight with everything he had, fueled by the strength of the bonds he'd forged in love and redemption. "Marcus," Zhang nodded, gesturing to the head of the table. "Welcome back." As Marcus took his seat, he felt the weight of expectation pressing down on him. The familiar thrill of high-stakes business coursed through his veins, but it was tempered by thoughts of his family back home. "Gentlemen," Marcus began, his voice steady, "let's not waste time. What are we dealing with?" For the next hour, Marcus absorbed the details of the hostile takeover bid. The situation was dire, worse than he'd imagined. As the board members argued and pointed fingers, Marcus's mind raced, searching for a solution. Suddenly, his phone vibrated. A text from Sophia. "The kids made you good luck cards. Check your briefcase." Excusing himself, Marcus stepped out into the hallway. Inside his briefcase, he found 4 colorful, handmade cards. Olivia's artistic flair, Lucas's meticulous handwriting, Ethan's bold designs, and Emma's heartfelt words, each one a reminder of what truly mattered. Tears pricked his eyes as he read Emma's message. "Dad, you always tell us to be brave and think outside the box. Now it's your turn. We believe in you." In that moment, something clicked. Marcus rushed back into the boardroom, a new energy radiating from him. "I have an idea," he announced, silencing the bickering board members. "It's unconventional, maybe even crazy, but it just might work." For the next several hours, Marcus outlined his plan. It was bold, innovative, and risky, everything that had once made Chun Enterprises a leader in the industry. As he spoke, he saw the spark reignite in the eyes of his former colleagues. "This is why we needed you back," Zhang said, a hint of his old admiration returning. "But Marcus, if this fails, then we fail trying something extraordinary," Marcus finished. "Better than going down without a fight." As dawn broke over Singapore, Marcus finally returned to his hotel room. Exhausted but exhilarated, he video-called Sophia and the kids. "Dad," for excited voices chorused as their faces filled the screen. "How's it going?" Sophia asked, concern and love evident in her eyes. Marcus smiled, the tension of the past hours melting away at the sight of his family. "It's tough, but we have a plan. Your cards. They inspired me more than you know." "Did you slay the business dragons, Dad?" Lucas asked eagerly. Marcus chuckled. "Not yet, buddy. But we're certainly going to try." As they chatted, Marcus felt his resolve strengthen. He wasn't just fighting for a company anymore. He was fighting for the future he wanted to build for these 5 precious people. "I miss you all so much," he said softly. "We miss you too," Sophia replied. "But we're so proud of you. Come home to us soon. Okay?" As the call ended, Marcus turned to the window, watching the Singapore skyline come alive with the new day. In a few hours, he would present their plan to the shareholders. Everything was on the line. But as he straightened his tie and gathered his notes, Marcus felt a calm certainty wash over him. Win or lose, He knew where his true strength lay, not in boardrooms or balance sheets, but in the love of his family and the life they had built together. With one last look at the family photo Sophia had given him, Marcus headed out to face the biggest challenge of his career. But this time he wasn't walking alone. The love and support of his family propelled him forward, giving him the courage to fight not just for a company, but for a legacy of integrity, innovation, and unwavering commitment to what truly matters. The battle for Chun Enterprises was about to begin, and Marcus Chun was ready to show the world that the greatest business acumen comes not from ruthless ambition, but from a heart full of love and a mind inspired by the innocent wisdom of children. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus began, his voice steady. We stand at a crossroads today, not just for Chun Enterprises, but for the very soul of business in the modern world. The room fell silent, all eyes fixed on the man they once hailed as a visionary leader. For years, I chased success at all costs, Marcus continued, his voice thick with emotion. I built an empire of steel and glass, but I nearly lost the only thing that truly mattered: my family. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. This was not the cold, calculated speech they had expected. Today, I'm proposing something radical, a complete restructuring of Chun Enterprises, one that puts people first. Employees, communities, and yes, even our competitors. The murmurs grew louder. Marcus could see the skepticism in many faces, but he pressed on. We will open source some of our key technologies, creating a collaborative ecosystem that lifts all boats. We'll invest heavily in sustainable practices and community development. And most importantly, we'll prioritize work-life balance for every employee, from the mailroom to the boardroom. As Marcus outlined the details of his plan, he could see the room dividing. Some shareholders nodded with growing enthusiasm, while others frowned deeply. Suddenly, a voice cut through the crowd. This is madness. You'll destroy the company's value overnight. Marcus recognized the speaker, Richard Hawthorne, the man behind the hostile takeover bid. Hawthorne stood, his face red with anger. Chun has lost his edge, Hawthorne sneered. He's gone soft, putting feelings before profits. I urge you all to accept my offer before this fool drives the company into the ground. The room erupted in chaos. Marcus gripped the podium, his knuckles white. This was the moment of truth. Mr. Hawthorne, Marcus's voice cut through the noise, you're right about one thing. I have changed. I've learned that true success isn't measured in stock prices or market share. It's measured in the lives we touch, the communities we build, and the world we leave for our children. Marcus held up the photo of his family. This is my why, my reason for everything. And I believe that by leading with heart, by putting humanity back into business, we can create something far more valuable than just another soulless corporation. The room fell silent once more. Marcus could feel the weight of every gaze, the palpable tension of decision. I'm not asking you to choose me, he said softly. I'm asking you to choose a future where business can be a force for good, where we can profit not just financially, but spiritually and ethically, where we can look our children in the eye and be proud of the legacy we're building. As Marcus stepped back from the podium, time seemed to stand still. Then, slowly, one person began to clap. Then another, and another. The applause grew, drowning out Hawthorne's protests. Zhang rushed to Marcus's side, tears in his eyes. They're with us, Marcus. They believe in your vision. As the voting commenced, Marcus slipped out onto a balcony, overwhelmed by emotion. He pulled out his phone, dialing Sophia. Hey, her voice was soft, concerned. How did it go? Marcus took a deep breath, looking out over the Singapore skyline. I don't know yet, but whatever happens, I know I did the right thing. I spoke from my heart, from our family's heart. We're so proud of you, Sophia said, her voice thick with emotion. No matter what, you're our hero. Just then, Zhang burst onto the balcony, his face beaming. Marcus, we did it. The shareholders voted overwhelmingly in our favor. Marcus's legs nearly gave out from relief and joy. He relayed the news to Sophia, her excited shouts mixing with the cheers from the ballroom. As the celebration erupted around him, Marcus felt a profound sense of peace wash over him. He had faced his greatest challenge not by reverting to his old, ruthless self, but by embracing the man he had become, a man shaped by love, family, and a deeper understanding of what truly matters in life. "Come home to us," Sophia's voice pulled him back to the moment. "We have some celebrating of our own to do." Marcus smiled, his heart full. "I'm on my way. To my real home. My true empire." As he ended the call and turned back to face the jubilant crowd, Marcus knew that this victory was just the beginning. He had not only saved Chin Enterprises but had set it on a revolutionary new path. One that would challenge the very foundations of modern business. The real work was about to begin, but with the love of his family and the fire of a newfound purpose in his heart, Marcus Chun was ready to change the world, one compassionate decision at a time. "This award," Marcus began, his voice filled with emotion, "doesn't belong to me. It belongs to every employee of Chun Enterprises who embraced our vision of compassionate capitalism, to every community we've partnered with, and most of all, to my family, who taught me the true meaning of success." As applause filled the room, Marcus caught Sophia's eye. The love and pride shining there made his heart swell. After the ceremony, the family slipped away from the crowds, finding a quiet moment in a secluded garden. "Dad," Olivia said, her artistic soul shining through her expressive eyes, "do you ever miss the old days? The excitement of big deals and global domination?" Marcus chuckled, pulling his daughter close. "Sometimes I miss the adrenaline rush," he admitted. "But what we're doing now, it's so much more fulfilling. Like the education initiative in Southeast Asia?" Lucas chimed in, always the academic of the group. "I read that literacy rates have improved by 40% in regions where we've implemented the program." Sophia squeezed Marcus's hand. "Or the sustainable energy projects in Africa," she added. "Remember when we visited last year? The look on those villagers' faces when they had electricity for the first time?" Marcus nodded, his eyes misting with the memory. "It's not always easy," he said softly. "There are still those who think we're foolish for prioritizing social good over maximum profits. But seeing the real-world impact of our work, that's worth more than any stock price." Ethan, the most business-minded of the Quadruplets, spoke up. "But we're still profitable, right, Dad? I mean, the company's value has actually increased since we adopted this new model." "That's right," Marcus confirmed. "We've proven that doing good and doing well aren't mutually exclusive. It's about playing the long game, thinking beyond quarterly reports." As they talked, a gentle breeze rustled through the garden. Emma, always the most sensitive of the four, suddenly grew quiet. "Emma? Sweetheart?" Sophia noticed first. "What's on your mind?" Emma looked up, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I was just thinking, what if you hadn't come back that day, Dad? What if you'd chosen the old way of doing business? Our family, all those people we've helped. Everything would be so different." The weight of her words settled over the group. Marcus knelt down, taking Emma's hands in his. "You're right," he said gently, "and that's why I'm grateful every single day for the second chance I was given. For your mother's strength in standing by me. For you four teaching me what really matters in life." Sophia joined them, wrapping her arms around her husband and daughter. "We all grew from that experience," she said. "It taught us the power of forgiveness, of choosing love over ambition." As the family embraced, a comfortable silence fell over them. The distant sounds of the awards ceremony faded away, leaving only the connection between six hearts that had weathered storms and emerged stronger. Suddenly, Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression turning serious. "What is it, Dad?" the Quadruplets asked in unison. Marcus took a deep breath. "It's Zhang. There's a situation brewing in our European division. A choice between a lucrative defense contract and our commitment to peaceful technologies." The family exchanged glances, understanding the weight of the decision looming before them. "What are you going to do?" Sophia asked, though she already knew the answer. Marcus looked at each member of his family, drawing strength from their unwavering support. "What we always do," he said with quiet determination. "We'll face it together, guided by our values and the knowledge that true success is measured in the lives we touch, not the wealth we accumulate. As they walked back towards the auditorium, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, Marcus felt a profound sense of gratitude. He had once built an empire of steel and glass, but now he was part of something far greater, a legacy of compassion, integrity, and love that would outlast any skyscraper or stock portfolio. The Chun family stepped back into the spotlight, not as individuals, but as a united force for good in the world of business and beyond. Their journey was far from over, but with each other by their side, they were ready for whatever the future might hold. The defense contract would boost our quarterly profits by 30%. Zhang explained, his face grave. But it goes against everything we've stood for these past 5 years. Sophia leaned forward, her brow furrowed. What's the alternative? Marcus sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. We have a proposal for a large-scale renewable energy project. It would provide clean power to millions, but the initial investment is steep. We'd be operating at a loss for at least 2 years. The Quadruplets, now active participants in family decisions, exchanged glances. I say we go for the energy project, Olivia said firmly. It aligns with our values. Lucas nodded in agreement. The long-term benefits to the environment and communities far outweigh the short-term financial gain. Ethan, ever the pragmatist, looked concerned. But what about our shareholders? We have a responsibility to them too. Emma, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. What if we could do both? All eyes turned to her. Emma blushed but continued, her voice growing stronger. What if we approach the defense contract from a different angle? Instead of weapons, we could propose defensive technologies. Things that protect people without causing harm. A spark of excitement lit up Marcus's eyes. Go on, he encouraged. We could develop advanced early warning systems or non-lethal crowd control measures, Emma explained. Things that save lives rather than take them. We could funnel the profits from that into the renewable energy project. The cabin fell silent as everyone considered Emma's suggestion. Marcus looked at his youngest daughter with a mixture of pride and awe. That's brilliant, he said softly. It's exactly the kind of innovative thinking we need. Sophia squeezed Emma's hand. You've got your father's business acumen and your mother's heart, she said, her voice thick with emotion. As the team began to flesh out Emma's idea, the plane started its descent into Paris. Marcus gazed out the window, his mind racing with possibilities. Suddenly, he felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Zhang. Zhang said quietly, there was a time when I thought your new approach would be the downfall of Chun Enterprises. But watching you and your family now, I've never been more proud to be part of this company. Marcus smiled, feeling a lump form in his throat. We've come a long way, old friend. As the plane touched down, Marcus stood to address his family and team. Whatever happens in this meeting, remember this. We're not just making business decisions. We're shaping the future. Our actions today will ripple out, affecting lives we may never see. So let's go in there and show them what compassionate capitalism really looks like. The Chun family disembarked, a united front of determination and purpose. As they walked across the tarmac, Marcus felt a swell of emotion. He had once walked away from this family, chasing an empty dream of success. Now, they walked together towards a future brighter than anything he could have imagined alone. The Parisian skyline loomed before them, a new challenge waiting. But with the wisdom gained from past mistakes and the strength of their unbreakable bond, Marcus knew they were ready for whatever lay ahead. As they approached the waiting cars, Emma tugged on Marcus's sleeve. Dad, she said, her eyes shining with a mix of nervousness and excitement. Do you think they'll listen to my idea? Marcus knelt down, looking his daughter in the eye. Emma, your idea might just change the world. And even if they don't listen today, we'll keep pushing, keep innovating until they do. That's the Chun way now. With renewed determination, the family climbed into their vehicles, ready to face the boardroom and beyond. The next chapter of their journey was about to unfold, and the world would never be the same. Gentlemen, Marcus began, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. We're here to discuss not just a business decision, but a pivotal moment for Chun Enterprises and, potentially, for global security and environmental sustainability. As Marcus outlined the situation, Sophia watched the room carefully, noting the shifting expressions of the board members. The quadruplets sat quietly, Emma's hands fidgeting nervously under the table. "We have a proposal," Marcus continued, "that we believe will satisfy our financial obligations while staying true to our core values." He nodded to Emma, who stood up, her voice shaky at first but growing stronger with each word. "What if we could revolutionize defense technology to focus on protection rather than destruction?" The room fell silent as Emma detailed her plan for non-lethal defense systems and early warning technologies. As she spoke, the skepticism on the executives' faces slowly gave way to interest, and then excitement. "And the profits from this venture," Emma concluded, her voice now firm and confident, "would fund our renewable energy project, creating a sustainable cycle of innovation and positive impact." As Emma sat down, the room erupted in discussion. Marcus squeezed his daughter's shoulder, immensely proud of her poise and vision. Suddenly, the door burst open. A man Marcus recognized as Philippe Dubois, the head of their biggest European competitor, strode in. "This is preposterous," Dubois sneered. "Chun Enterprises is clearly out of its depth. I have a counteroffer that will dwarf their profits and secure your military contracts for years to come." The room tensed, all eyes darting between Marcus and Dubois. This was an unexpected twist, and the stakes had just gotten much higher. Sophia stood up, her eyes flashing with determination. "Mr. Dubois," she said calmly, "perhaps instead of competing, we should consider collaboration. Imagine the impact we could have if we combined our resources and expertise." Dubois scoffed, but Marcus saw a flicker of interest in his eyes. "And why would I want to work with a company that prioritizes feelings over profits?" It was Ethan who spoke up next, his business acumen shining through. "Because, Mr. Dubois, our approach has increased our market value by 45% over the past 5 years. We're not just doing good. We're redefining what profitable business looks like in the 21st century." The room fell silent again, the tension palpable. Marcus looked around at his family, each of them contributing their unique strengths to this crucial moment. He felt a surge of pride and love so strong it almost overwhelmed him. "Gentlemen," Marcus addressed the board, "the choice before you isn't just about contracts or quarterly reports. It's about the legacy we want to leave for future generations. Do we want to be remembered as those who prioritized short-term gains, or as the visionaries who dared to reshape the very nature of global business and security?" As Marcus spoke, he could see the impact of his words. Even Dubois seemed to be reconsidering his position. "I propose," Marcus continued, his voice resonating with conviction, "that we take a leap of faith together. Let's combine Chun Enterprises' innovative vision with European expertise and resources. We can create a new paradigm of ethical defense and sustainable energy that will change the world." The boardroom buzzed with excited murmurs. Dubois stepped forward, his expression a mix of reluctance and intrigue. "And if this fails," he challenged. Marcus looked at his family, drawing strength from their unwavering support. "Then we fail knowing we tried to make a real difference. But I don't believe we will fail. Not with the brightest minds in the industry working together towards a common goal." As the board members began to nod in agreement, Marcus felt a tugging at his sleeve. It was Lucas, his eyes wide with realization. "Dad," he whispered urgently, "I just thought of something. What if we integrated AI and machine learning into Emma's defense systems? We could create predictive models for conflict resolution, potentially stopping wars before they even start." Marcus's eyes lit up at his son's insight. He turned back to the room, ready to build upon this new idea. The energy in the boardroom was electric, filled with the potential of what they were about to create. As discussions began in earnest, plans being drawn up and alliances formed, Marcus caught Sophia's eye across the table. In that moment, they shared a silent understanding of how far they'd come and the incredible journey that still lay ahead. The Chun family had entered this room facing a difficult decision. They were leaving it on the cusp of reshaping global industry, all while staying true to the values that had brought them here. As the meeting continued late into the Parisian night, one thing became clear. This was more than just a business deal. It was the beginning of a new era, one where compassion and innovation would go hand in hand, changing the world one decision at a time. "We did it," Marcus breathed, still in disbelief. "We actually did it." Sophia squeezed his hand, her eyes shining with pride. "No, darling. We did it. All of us, the quadruplets, despite their fatigue, were buzzing with excitement. Did you see Mr. Dubois's face when we proposed the AI integration?" Lucas grinned. "I thought his eyes were going to pop out of his head." Olivia laughed. "And when Emma stood up to that board member who questioned our commitment? That was amazing." Emma blushed, still processing her role in the night's events. "I was so scared," she admitted. "But then I remembered what Dad always says about speaking from the heart." Ethan, ever the pragmatist, was already on his tablet. "The news is spreading fast," he reported. "Our stock is soaring and social media is blowing up with speculation about the Dubois alliance." Marcus took a deep breath, taking in the moment. "This is just the beginning," he said softly. "The real work starts now." As if on cue, Marcus's phone rang. It was Zhang. "Marcus," Zhang's voice was urgent. "You need to see this. Turn on the news." The family huddled around the TV as breaking news flashed across the screen. Reports were coming in of a potential conflict brewing in Southeast Asia, with tensions escalating rapidly. "This is it," Marcus said, his voice tight with emotion. "The first real test of our new approach." Sophia looked at her husband, seeing the weight of responsibility in his eyes. "What do we do?" Marcus turned to his children, his gaze full of love and determination. "We do what we've always done. We face it together." Over the next few hours, the Chun family's suite became a hub of frantic activity. Video calls with world leaders, urgent discussions with the newly formed Dubois team, and a flurry of emails and messages as they mobilized their resources. Emma and Lucas worked tirelessly on adapting their AI conflict resolution models to the specific cultural and political nuances of the region. Olivia used her artistic skills to create powerful visual representations of the potential outcomes, both peaceful and devastating. Ethan crunched numbers, analyzing the economic impact of various scenarios. As the day wore on, the situation in Southeast Asia teetered on the brink of full-scale war. The Chun family watched anxiously as their early warning systems and diplomatic channels worked overtime. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, a breakthrough came. "Dad!" Ethan called out, his eyes wide. "Look at this!" On the screen, they watched as leaders from the conflicting nations agreed to an unprecedented peace summit, citing the Dubois alliance's innovative approach as a key factor in their decision. The room erupted in cheers and tears of relief. Marcus pulled his family into a tight embrace, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what they had accomplished. "We did it," Sophia whispered, echoing Marcus's words from earlier. "We really did it." As the celebrations continued, Marcus stepped out onto the balcony once more. The Parisian skyline glittered before him, but his mind was far away, contemplating the future they were shaping. Sophia joined him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "What are you thinking?" she asked softly. Marcus turned to her, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I'm thinking about how close I came to losing all of this. How one decision, years ago, could have led me down a completely different path." Sophia leaned her head on his shoulder. "But you made the right choice in the end. You came back to us, and in doing so," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion, "we've created something far greater than I ever imagined possible. We're not just changing the business world, Sophia. We're changing the actual world." As they stood there, bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun, Marcus felt a profound sense of purpose wash over him. The journey ahead would be challenging, filled with obstacles and difficult decisions. But with his family by his side and their shared vision guiding them, he knew they could face anything. Inside, they could hear their children excitedly planning their next steps, their voices full of hope and determination. Marcus and Sophia exchanged a look of pure love and gratitude. "Ready for our next adventure?" Sophia asked, a hint of mischief in her eyes. Marcus smiled, pulling her close. With you and our incredible children? Always, as they rejoined their family, ready to tackle whatever challenges lay ahead. Marcus knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter, not just for the Chens, but for the world they were committed to improving, one compassionate decision at a time. Marcus paced the room, his phone pressed to his ear as he spoke in hushed tones with world leaders and diplomats. Sophia coordinated with NGOs and humanitarian organizations, preparing for any outcome. The Quadruplets, each stationed at their own workstation, monitored different aspects of the situation. "Dad," Ethan called out suddenly, his voice tight with concern. "There's a problem. Our AI is detecting unusual troop movements near the border." Marcus rushed over, his heart racing. "What kind of movements?" Lucas chimed in, his fingers flying over the keyboard. "It doesn't match any of our predicted scenarios. It's like they're positioning for an attack, but in a way we've never seen before." The room fell silent, the weight of potential failure hanging heavy in the air. Emma stood up, her face pale but determined. "We need to warn them," she said firmly. "If we don't act now, everything we've worked for could be lost." Marcus nodded, reaching for the secure line to the summit. But before he could dial, Olivia gasped. "Wait!" she cried, pointing to her screen. "Look at this." On her monitor, satellite imagery showed something unexpected. The troop movements, when viewed from above, formed a distinct pattern. It's a peace symbol," Olivia whispered in awe. Realization dawned on Marcus's face. "They're not positioning for attack," he breathed. "They're making a statement, a gesture of goodwill." The room erupted in a flurry of activity as they rushed to confirm this unexpected development. Within minutes, reports started flooding in from the ground, confirming what the Chun family had discovered. "It's working," Sophia said, tears glistening in her eyes. "Our approach, our faith in humanity's better nature. It's actually working." As they watched, the leaders at the summit announced a historic peace accord, citing the innovative conflict resolution strategies provided by the Chengdu Alliance as a key factor in their decision. The suite exploded in cheers and tears of joy. The Quadruplets hugged each other tightly, their combined efforts having played a crucial role in averting a potentially devastating war. Marcus pulled Sophia close, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what they had achieved. "We did it," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. "We really did it." As the celebrations continued, Marcus's phone rang. It was Philippe Dubois. "Chun," Dubois's voice was uncharacteristically warm. "I must admit, I had my doubts about this partnership, but what we've accomplished today, it's beyond anything I could have imagined." Marcus smiled, catching Sophia's eye. "It's just the beginning, Philippe. We have so much more work to do." As he ended the call, Marcus turned to his family, his heart swelling with pride and love. He said softly, "There was a time when I thought success meant having my name on the tallest buildings or the biggest deals. But this is true success." Emma stepped forward, her eyes shining. "Dad, does this mean we can expand our program? There are so many other conflicts we could help resolve." Marcus nodded, a new fire of determination in his eyes. "Absolutely, but it won't be easy. We'll face opposition, skepticism, maybe even danger. Are you all ready for that?" The Quadruplets exchanged glances, then turned back to their parents with unwavering resolve. "We're Chens," Lucas said firmly. "We're ready for anything." Sophia squeezed Marcus's hand, her smile radiant. "So, where do we go from here?" Marcus looked around at his family, then out at the Parisian skyline, now symbolic of the global change they were spearheading. "We go wherever we're needed," he said. "We keep pushing, keep innovating, keep believing in the power of compassion and understanding to change the world." As they stood together, bathed in the glow of their success and the promise of challenges to come, the Chun family felt a profound sense of purpose. They had transformed from a fractured family chasing empty success to a united force for global good. The sun began to rise over Paris, casting a golden light across the city. It felt like more than just a new day dawning. It was the beginning of a new era, one where business and compassion walked hand in hand, and where a single family's journey of redemption had blossomed into a movement that could change the world. Marcus took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their new responsibility and the excitement of the path ahead. "All right, Team Chun," he said, his voice full of love and determination. "Let's get to work. We've got a world to change." As they moved back to their stations, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, there was a palpable sense of hope and possibility in the air. The Chun family's story was far from over. In many ways, it felt like it was just beginning. Marcus stood on the balcony of their mountain chalet, surveying the snow-capped peaks. Sophia joined him, wrapping a warm blanket around their shoulders. "Penny for your thoughts?" she asked softly. Marcus sighed, a mix of pride and worry in his eyes. "I was just thinking about how far we've come, and how much further we still have to go." Inside, the Quadruplets, now in their early 20s, were engrossed in heated discussion. "The climate crisis is accelerating," Olivia argued passionately. "We need to redirect more resources to our green energy initiatives." Ethan shook his head. "But we can't ignore the growing refugee crisis. Our conflict resolution programs are more critical than ever." Lucas, always the peacemaker, interjected. "Why can't we do both? Our AI models suggest we can optimize our efforts to address multiple crises simultaneously." Emma, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. "There's something else we need to consider," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I've been analyzing some disturbing patterns in global data. I think we might be facing a new kind of threat." The room fell silent as Emma pulled up a holographic display, showing a web of interconnected data points. "It's subtle," she explained, "but there's evidence of a coordinated effort to undermine everything we've built. A network of influential people who see our work as a threat to their power and profits." Marcus and Sophia exchanged worried glances. They had faced opposition before, but this sounded far more serious. "What are we dealing with exactly?" Marcus asked, his voice tense. Emma took a deep breath. "I believe it's a shadow organization with tentacles in governments, corporations, and even some NGOs. They're spreading disinformation, manipulating markets, and possibly even instigating conflicts to discredit our peace efforts." The gravity of the situation settled over the room. This was no longer just about changing the world through ethical business practices. They were up against a force that wanted to maintain the status quo at any cost. Sophia stepped forward, her eyes blazing with determination. "Then, we fight back. With truth, with innovation, with the power of the connections we've built around the world." Marcus nodded, feeling a familiar fire ignite in his chest. "We've faced impossible odds before. We'll do it again." The Quadruplets stood up, united in their resolve. "We're with you," they said in unison. As the family huddled together, formulating plans and strategies, Marcus felt a surge of emotion. They had come so far from the days when he had almost lost everything chasing empty success. Now they stood together, a force for good in a world that desperately needed it. "Whatever comes," Marcus said, looking at each beloved face, "we face it as a family. Our strength is in our unity, our love for each other, and our unwavering commitment to making this world a better place." Sophia squeezed his hand. "Together," she whispered. "Together," the Quadruplets echoed. As they turned back to their planning, the first rays of dawn broke over the mountain peaks. It was the beginning of a new day, and potentially their greatest challenge yet. But with the strength of their family bond and the power of their shared vision, the Chens were ready to take on whatever the future held. The world was changing, and they would be at the forefront, fighting for a future where compassion and innovation could triumph over greed and fear. As our story reaches this pivotal moment, we invite you to join the Chens on their continued journey. What challenges will they face? How will their fight against this shadowy opposition unfold? And what new innovations will they bring to the world? To find out, make sure you're subscribed to our channel. Click the subscribe button now and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next thrilling chapter in the Chin family saga. And if you want to see how it all began, click on the video appearing on your screen now to watch the start of their incredible journey. Join us as we continue to explore the power of family, redemption, and the unstoppable force of compassionate capitalism. The adventure is just